What if I told you there are vegetables you plant just one time? They keep producing food for 15, 20, even 30 years. No replanting every spring, no starting seeds under lights in March, no transplanting delicate seedlings into cold soil. You plant once, then you harvest for decades. Most gardeners spend every winter planning the same exhausting ritual. Order seeds in February, start them indoors under lights, transplant in May. Do it all again next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. This is the annual vegetable treadmill. It never stops demanding your time and energy. Ruth Stout would have loved what I am about to show you. She spent 40 years proving that easier methods work better than hard labor. Perennial vegetables take that philosophy even further. They are the ultimate expression of planting smart instead of planting hard. These plants live for multiple years. Some live for multiple decades. You harvest them season after season without ever replanting. The work happens once during establishment. Then nature takes over and does the rest for you. Asparagus is the most famous example. Plant crowns once in a well-prepared bed. Wait 2 years for establishment. Then harvest spears every spring for the next 15 to 30 years. One planting, 3 decades of food. Walking onions are even stranger. They form bulbs at the top of tall stalks. Those stalks bend down under the weight. The bulbs touch soil and root themselves. The patch literally walks across your garden year after year. Plant them once. They renew themselves for 10 to 15 years without any help from you. Sea kale is a coastal perennial with edible shoots and leaves. It comes back every spring like clockwork. Establish it properly, and it produces for 10 to 15 years. You harvest young shoots in early spring before most annuals have even sprouted. Jerusalem artichokes are another workhorse perennial. Some gardeners call them sunchokes to avoid the confusing name. They produce edible tubers underground and tolerate freezing winters without protection. Plant a few tubers once and they multiply for years. The bed becomes a permanent food source that requires almost no maintenance. Dig tubers as you need them through fall and winter. Perennial kales like Daubenton's kale keep producing leaves for over 10 years. You harvest outer leaves while the plant keeps growing from the center. The same plant feeds you year after year. No replanting, no seed starting, no transplant shock. These vegetables share something important with Ruth Stout's mulch method. They both respect the soil's need to stay undisturbed. Perennial beds do not get tilled every spring. The soil structure improves year after year instead of being destroyed and rebuilt. Underground fungal networks stay intact. Beneficial organisms thrive. The soil becomes richer and more alive with each passing season. This is gardening that gets easier over time, the opposite of annual vegetables that demand the same hard work every single year. Your first year with perennials requires patience. You plant, you wait, you let roots establish deep in the earth. But your 5th year, your 10th year, you are simply harvesting abundance from plants that grow stronger with age. Let's talk about the perennials you can actually grow. These are not exotic rarities that require special conditions. These are real vegetables that real gardeners harvest year after year. Asparagus is the gateway perennial for most people. It is familiar enough that you have probably eaten it from the grocery store, but grocery store asparagus is expensive. Growing your own means abundant spears every spring for practically nothing. You plant bare root crowns in early spring. They look like strange spider-shaped roots when they arrive. Dig a trench about 8 inches deep. Space the crowns 12 to 18 inches apart in rich, well-drained soil. Cover them with a few inches of soil that first year. Let the ferns grow tall and ferny all summer long. Do not harvest anything. The first year, let those roots establish and store energy deep underground. Year 2, you can harvest lightly for just 2 weeks. Cut spears when they reach 6 to 8 inches tall, then stop and let the ferns grow again. The plant needs that foliage to build strength year 3 and beyond. Harvest for 6 to 8 weeks every spring. Those same crowns will feed you for 15 to 30 years. Walking onions are the conversation piece of the perennial garden. They look like regular onions until summer arrives. Then they send up tall, hollow stalks. Small bulbs form at the very top instead of flowers. The weight of those bulbs bends the stalk down to the ground. The bulbs root where they touch soil. Next year, new plants grow from those rooted bulbs. The patch slowly walks across your garden bed. You can harvest the underground bulbs like regular onions. You can harvest the top bulbs for pickling or replanting. You can even harvest the green stalks like scallions. 3 different harvests from one plant that renews itself for 10 to 15 years. Sea kale is less common, but absolutely worth growing. It is native to coastal areas of Europe. The plant produces thick, fleshy shoots in early spring. Those shoots are the main harvest and taste like a cross between asparagus and broccoli. Later in the season, you can harvest young leaves and even the flower buds. Every part of the plant is edible. Sea kale needs 2 years to establish before you start harvesting. This patience is important for long-term productivity. Once established, you can force the shoots in late winter, cover the plant with a bucket or special terracotta forcer. This keeps the shoots pale and tender instead of green and bitter. You get the first fresh vegetables of the year while snow still covers the ground. After forcing, remove the cover and let the plant grow normally. It will produce for another 10 to 15 years from that single planting. Jerusalem artichokes are the tough customers of the perennial world. They tolerate terrible soil, freezing winters, and general neglect. The plant grows tall like a sunflower and produces edible tubers underground. Those tubers have a nutty, slightly sweet flavor. Plant a few tubers in spring. By fall, you will have dozens of tubers to harvest. Leave some in the ground to overwinter. They will multiply and spread year after year. Some gardeners complain that Jerusalem artichokes are too vigorous. They spread aggressively if you let them. The solution is simple. Plant them in a dedicated bed where spreading is fine, or harvest thoroughly each year to control the population. Either way, you get a permanent food source that produces reliable yields with zero maintenance. Perennial kales are criminally underused in American gardens. Daubenton's kale is the most available variety. It grows as a sprawling plant covered in blue-green leaves. You harvest outer leaves continuously through the growing season. The plant keeps producing new leaves from the center. It never bolts to seed like annual kale does. Daubenton's kale survives most winters in zones 7 and warmer. In colder zones, you can take cuttings in fall and root them indoors. Those cuttings become new plants in spring. The same genetic line can continue for 10, 15, even 20 years. One plant provides enough leaves for regular harvests. 3 or 4 plants provide more kale than most families can eat. Sorrel is a lemony tart perennial that returns faithfully every spring. The leaves add bright acidity to salads and soups. Good King Henry is an old-fashioned perennial spinach that was common in European cottage gardens. It produces edible leaves, shoots, and flower buds. Lovage tastes like intense celery and grows into a massive plant. You harvest leaves for flavoring soups and stews. All of these perennials share the same beautiful trait. You plant them once in the right spot, they produce food for years or decades with minimal intervention. This is the kind of gardening that Ruth Stout understood in her bones. Work smart at the beginning. Let nature do the heavy lifting forever. After, the magic of perennial vegetables lives underground where you cannot see it. Those roots are doing work that annual vegetables simply cannot match. Annual vegetables have shallow root systems. They only live for one season. So roots stay in the top foot of soil. Perennial vegetables send roots down 2, 3, even 4 feet deep. Those deep roots change everything about how the plant survives and thrives. Deep roots stabilize the soil. They hold it in place during heavy rains that would wash away loose topsoil. They prevent erosion on slopes where annual beds would gradually slide downhill. The roots act like underground rebar, reinforcing the earth. Deep roots also access water that shallow annuals can never reach. During summer drought, annual vegetables wilt and suffer. Your perennial asparagus and Jerusalem artichokes keep growing. Their roots are pulling moisture from deep underground reserves. This means you water perennials much less once they establish. The first year or two, yes, you need to water regularly. But after establishment, most perennials survive on rainfall alone. Even in dry summers, their deep roots find enough moisture. Those same roots are constantly shedding and decomposing underground. Old root hairs die off and new ones grow. This continuous cycle adds organic matter deep in the soil profile, not just on the surface where you add compost, but down where it really improves soil structure. Over years, perennial beds develop incredible soil quality. The earth becomes dark, crumbly, and rich with life. Earthworms multiply in undisturbed perennial beds. Beneficial fungi spread their networks through the root zone. This brings us to one of the most important benefits. Perennial vegetables protect soil biology in a way annual vegetables cannot. Every time you till an annual bed, you destroy fungal networks. These networks are called mycorrhizae, and they feed your plants. The fungi attach to roots and extend far out into the soil. They gather nutrients and water, trading them to plants for sugars. One tilling pass rips apart these delicate fungal threads. The network has to rebuild from scratch every single year. Perennial beds never get tilled after establishment. Those fungal networks grow stronger and more extensive with each passing season. A 10-year-old asparagus bed has fungal networks that would be impossible to recreate through any amount of fertilizer or soil amendment. The fungi are doing the feeding work for you. They are mining the soil for nutrients and delivering them directly to plant roots. This is exactly what Ruth Stout understood about not disturbing the soil. Leave it alone and biology does the work. Perennial vegetables take that principle and extend it across decades instead of just one season. The low maintenance benefits compound over time. Established perennials need less of everything compared to annuals, less watering because of deep roots, less weeding because the plants shade out competition. Perennial vegetables leaf out early in spring. They grow and spread while annual beds are still bare soil waiting for last frost. That early growth shades the ground and prevents weed seeds from germinating. By the time summer arrives, the perennials have already won the competition for space. Compare this to annual beds that start empty every spring. Weeds get a head start while you wait for soil to warm enough for planting. You spend weeks pulling weeds from bare ground. In a perennial bed, the vegetables are already thick and lush before weeds can establish. Pest resistance is another quiet benefit of perennial vegetables. Established plants are vigorous and healthy. They can tolerate some insect feeding without major damage. A few aphids on a massive lovage plant barely register. The same aphid pressure on young annual transplants can devastate your harvest. Perennials have the size and energy reserves to shrug off minor pest issues. This does not mean perennials never have pest problems, but it means you can tolerate pests instead of fighting them constantly. The difference between tolerance and total war saves you money, time, and stress. Now, let's talk about the propagation magic that makes perennials even better than their initial planting. Many perennial vegetables spread through underground rhizomes or form clumps that can be divided. This means free plants forever. Asparagus crowns slowly expand over the years. After 5 or 6 years, you can dig and divide large crowns into multiple pieces. Each piece becomes a new plant. You can fill new beds or share crowns with other gardeners. Walking onions propagate themselves without any help from you. Those top bulbs root and create new plants automatically. You can also deliberately plant the top bulbs wherever you want new patches to grow. Every year, you have more onions than you started with. Jerusalem artichokes multiply underground, plant 5 tubers in spring and harvest 30 tubers in fall. Replant a few and eat the rest. Next year, you harvest even more. The bed becomes a permanent food source that expands on its own. Perennial kales propagate from cuttings. Take a 6-inch cutting from healthy growth. Strip the lower leaves and stick it in moist soil. The cutting roots in a few weeks. That new plant is genetically identical to the parent. You can maintain the same kale clone for 10, 15, 20 years by taking cuttings regularly. The original plant never has to die. This is fundamentally different from annual vegetables where you buy new seeds every single year. With perennials, you invest once. Then you propagate and expand using plants you already own. Some perennial vegetables even produce seed that you can save for yourself. They flower every year, not just once before dying like annuals. You can collect seed, plant it, and develop varieties adapted to your specific garden conditions over time. The plants that thrive in your soil and climate produce the seed for next generation. Year after year, your perennials become better suited to your exact location. This is the opposite of buying hybrid seeds bred for industrial farms in California. Your perennials evolve to match your backyard in Minnesota or Georgia or wherever you garden. All of these benefits stack on top of each other. Deep roots plus no-till soil plus free propagation plus early spring growth. The result is a food system that gets easier and more productive every single year. Your first year is work, preparing beds, planting crowns, waiting for establishment. Your third year is starting to pay off. You are harvesting regularly with minimal maintenance. Your 10th year is pure abundance. Mature plants producing heavily, soil-rich with organic matter, fungal networks feeding everything efficiently. This is what gardening looks like when you align yourself with how perennials actually grow. You set up the system once, then step back and let nature run it for you. Annual vegetables fight against nature's preference for perennial ecosystems. You rip everything out every fall and start over from bare ground every spring. Perennial vegetables work with nature. They stay rooted, they build soil, they come back stronger every year. This is not just easier, it is better for the soil, better for your time, better for the planet. Ruth Stout proved that you could garden without backbreaking labor. Perennial vegetables prove that you can garden without annual repetition. Both approaches share the same philosophy: respect what the soil needs. Work with natural systems instead of against them. Let the plants and the biology do the heavy lifting while you harvest the abundance they create. Growing perennial vegetables requires a different mindset than growing annuals. You need patience at the beginning and trust in the long-term process. The first year is all about establishment. You are not growing food yet. You are growing roots. This is the hardest part for gardeners used to instant gratification from fast annual crops. You plant lettuce and harvest 30 days later. You plant asparagus crowns and wait 2 full years before taking your first harvest. That waiting feels impossible at first, but understand what is happening underground during those patient years. The plant is building a massive root system. Those roots are storing energy in the form of carbohydrates. They are spreading out and down, claiming territory in the soil. When you finally do harvest, you are tapping into years of stored energy. The plant can afford to give you abundant food because it has reserves. If you harvest too early, you deplete those reserves before they fully develop. The plant weakens and may never reach its full productive potential. Kale demonstrates this principle perfectly. Planted in spring and it grows modestly through the first summer. Let it grow without harvesting anything. The plant is establishing roots and learning your soil conditions. Second year, same thing. Let it grow, let it flourish, let those roots go deep. Third year, you start harvesting young shoots in early spring. The plant is finally strong enough to share its abundance. From that point forward, you harvest for 10 to 15 years, 2 years of patience rewarded with 15 years of food. The same timeline applies to asparagus, though you can cheat slightly and harvest lightly in year 2. But heavy harvesting should wait until year 3. This patience is an investment that pays compound interest for decades. Location matters more for perennials than for annuals. You cannot just plant them anywhere and move them next year if conditions are wrong. Choose permanent spots with good drainage and appropriate sun exposure. Most perennial vegetables want full sun, though some tolerate partial shade. Asparagus absolutely requires well-drained soil. It will rot in heavy clay or anywhere water pools after rain. Jerusalem artichokes tolerate terrible soil but spread aggressively. Plant them where spreading is acceptable or where you can harvest thoroughly every year. Perennial kales and good King Henry can handle some shade. They work well under the dappled light beneath fruit trees. This makes them perfect for food forest systems, where you are stacking multiple layers of productive plants. The trees provide fruit, the understory provides vegetables. Once you choose the right location, prepare it well. Perennials will live there for years. So soil preparation is worth extra effort. Add compost, aged manure, or other organic matter generously. Work it deep into the planting area. Perennial roots will eventually mine nutrients from deep in the subsoil, but good surface fertility helps them establish faster. After planting, mulch heavily around your perennials. This suppresses weeds during that vulnerable first year when plants are small. The mulch also conserves moisture and gradually breaks down into more organic matter. You are feeding the soil while protecting the plants year after year. Keep adding mulch or compost around your perennials. They will reward this feeding with increasing productivity. Kale especially benefits from heavy composting each spring. The plant uses that fertility to produce thick, succulent shoots. Asparagus beds benefit from a spring top dressing of compost after harvest ends. Feed the plants that feed you. Division and renewal become part of perennial care after the first few years. Some perennials slowly decline if left undivided too long. Clumping perennials like sorrel or good King Henry form dense crowns. After 4 or 5 years, dig the clump and divide it into separate plants. Replant the divisions with fresh compost. This renews vigor and gives you extra plants to expand your beds or share. Perennial kales stay productive longer if you take cuttings every few years. The cuttings become vigorous young plants. You can retire old woody specimens and replace them with fresh cuttings from the same genetic line. This rotation keeps your perennial kale bed permanently productive. Old plants phase out as young plants phase in. The work of maintaining perennials is minimal compared to replanting annuals every year. A few hours of dividing or mulching once every few years. Compare that to dozens of hours starting seeds, hardening off transplants, and replanting entire beds annually. The math is obvious. Perennials save you hundreds of hours over their productive lifespan. Those hours go back into your life for other things. More time observing your garden, more time harvesting. More time sitting in Ruth Stout's favorite garden tool, the comfortable lawn chair. This is gardening designed around your life instead of your life designed around gardening demands. Plant well, be patient, then harvest abundance for years while doing almost nothing. Perennial vegetables are the ultimate expression of lazy gardening done, right? And I mean lazy in the best possible way, not lazy as in neglectful, lazy as in smart enough to let nature do the work for you. Ruth Stout built her entire gardening philosophy around this idea. Stop fighting, start collaborating with natural systems. Perennial vegetables take that collaboration to its logical conclusion. Plant once, harvest for decades. The modern world teaches us that we need to work harder every year to get the same results, buy more inputs, spend more time, control every variable. Perennial vegetables teach the opposite lesson. Invest effort once at the beginning, then step back and let the system run itself. Your asparagus crowns are still producing 30 years after you planted them. Your walking onions have spread across the garden and renewed themselves dozens of times. That sea kale patch is feeding you reliably every spring while you do almost nothing to maintain it. This is food security built on working with nature instead of trying to dominate it. Deep roots finding water during drought. Undisturbed soil building fertility year after year. Your future self will thank you for every perennial you plant today. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you will be harvesting abundance from plants you barely remember establishing. The work is long finished, but the rewards keep coming. Start small if this feels overwhelming. Plant one asparagus bed this spring, add walking onions next year. Tuck perennial kale cuttings under your fruit trees. Find a spot for sea kale where it can live undisturbed for a decade. Each perennial you establish is one less crop you need to replant every single year. The math works increasingly in your favor over time. This is gardening that compounds like interest in a savings account. The benefits multiply while you sleep. Plant once. Harvest for decades. Let your garden grow up instead of starting over every spring. Your soil will thank you, your back will thank you, and your dinner plate will stay full of fresh vegetables year after year. Welcome to the perennial revolution, the easiest gardening decision you will ever make.